16 tons, what do you get? Another day older and deeper in debt. Tell Saint Ajora that I can't go. I sold my soul to a magical store. Alright, kids, sit down. It's time for a story. This is a story of Dad going to Gencon 25 to play weird formats. This is the end of my Magic career. I basically was sick of Magic the Gathering. The price after Miriam increased from $3.29 to $3.59 a pack. I became disenfranchised with the Magic the Gathering in general. My friends graduated high school, went to different colleges. It's time for something different. So I went to Gen Con, and instead of playing the usual extended formats or standard formats, I decided to play a one booster draft just for funsies, and then the rest was all going to be weird formats. So I played Creature Feature, I played Peasant Magic, I played Unhinged just for funsies. It was basically my last Gen Con I was ever going to go to, my last Magic the Gathering event I was going to go to, and I chose Peasant Magic, and it was a mistake. Now, Peasant Magic is just like Pauper, where your deck is mostly common cards, with the additional rule that you can have 5 uncommon cards. It can be cards that are not even in Magic the Gathering Online. You can put in busted cards like Sol Ring, which is uncommon. You can put in Maze of Ith, all the way from the Dark. You can put in cards from Legends. You can put in, doesn't matter how expensive the card is, it just has to be a common or uncommon. And a lot of the cards, before there were blocks, were on either common or uncommon sheets and sets that just didn't have rares. The Dark didn't have rares. If you wanted to be a rare in those old sets, you were called a U1, which means U means uncommon. 1 means how many times it appeared on the sheet. So you can have a U3, which appeared 3 times on the sheet, and then a U1 would be 3 times as rare as that, which is actually about the rarity of a rare, because the normal Magic the Gathering pack is 15 cards, 1 rare, 3 uncommons, the rest are commons. So a U1 is kind of like a rare, except in Peasant Magic, it's not, because it was on the uncommon sheet. So you can think of some pretty busted uncommons to use in your deck, and since you're allowed 5, you could throw in, say, a Sol Ring, and for the most powerful uncommon you could think of, it could be, that's just the skeleton of your deck, could be based upon this uncommon. And it gives a little bit more variety than Pauper. It's not studied, so you can't net deck. One of the worst parts about Magic the Gathering is players look at the internet, find a deck that they like, buy it online, buy all the cards online, don't even open Magic the Gathering packs, they just buy their deck from online, and then they just show up in their tournament with whatever the best deck in the meta is that has the highest win rate, and they get prizes, and it's lame. It's a really bad way of playing Magic the Gathering. So if you go into these unusual formats like Creature Feature, Peasant Magic, you get to have a little bit more fun playing rogue decks after rogue decks. So here's a tournament report of me going 2-3 at Peasant Magic tournament at Gen Con 25. So first round, I'm playing basically a deck that I hadn't actually finished yet, and I had to finish it by just going to the vendors real quick for a couple of really rare cards. My deck was basically centered around Hypnotic Spectre. This is the revised picture, my favorite. Revised is where I got started in Magic the Gathering. His name's Hippie. Hippie. Some people call it Hippie Spec, but he's really Hippie. It's 2/2 uncommon. When opponents hit by Hypnotic Spectre, you discard a card at random. It could even be a land card, and then your opponent doesn't have a land to play for the turn. It's really sneaky. It's saying at random. Future Spectres were printed as choose and discard a card. This one was really nasty. It was almost banned because players could turn 1 Dark Ritual out of Hypnotic Spectre, and then the opponent could just concede turn 1. Now, I have played Mono Black Land Destruction. It has 2 very powerful land destruction cards. First is Sinkhole. What a terrible picture. Let's fix that. Sinkhole, it's a card from Unlimited. Destroys any 1 land for black. This is back when Richard Garfield didn't know what he was doing. I found 4 Sinkholes for $25 each, if you can believe about it. It's a common. $25 common. That's right. Oh, Amy's has her mouth open right now. Yeah. Uh, 2 mana land destruction spells are just overpowered because you could first turn land, your opponent first turn lands, and then second turn you play land sinkhole and destroys the only land your opponent has. A going first sinkhole is completely overpowered and should never have been printed. It's a common. It's not legal in Pauper on Magic Gathering Online because Magic Gathering Online, doesn't play Alpha Beta Unlimited cards. And it's legal in Peasant Magic. So let's just play 4 copies of Sinkhole. I don't care. And let's just play 4 copies of Maze of Ith. They're a liar. It's not an uncommon. It's actually C1, which means it's on the common sheet and it appears once in the common sheet. To compare, like a basic land could be a C6. So it appears 6 times less often than a basic land. How weird is that? So 4 copies of Maze of Ith, just to get rid of creatures. Play 4 copies of Oubliette. It's a card for black, 1. It's like a murder, but better, because not only does it remove the creature from the game, instead of going to the graveyard, it kills black creatures, it kills artifact creatures, and black has a problem with killing those. Oubliette kills them, and it removes the enchantment on them from the game. So this is the best 3 mana removal black has. I got Oubliette from a card shop in Sheboygan. Basically, what got me serious into Magic, my dad went to this card shop, and it was mostly paintball guns, most like a paintball gun and card shop. And well, he just bought the whole Magic the Gathering. He bought the store for like $1,200. Like every single card the shop had, they just emptied all their shelves, said they were done. They're really a paintball shop. This current owner didn't know what the previous owner was doing by buying Magic the Gathering cards. And yeah, he sold out, giving us everything. We got a lot of really old cards like Island of Walk, Elephant Graveyard. Yeah, Arabian Nights cards. They were worth like $50 then. Pretty cool. We got Oubliette. And then to round out the deck, we got Paralyze, the best 1 mana removal in Magic the Gathering. Paralyze. I played 1,000 games with Paralyze back in the day. Paralyze was a card where you would tap a creature and it wouldn't untap during its controller's untap step unless you paid 4 during upkeep. It's really easy to forget your upkeep in Magic the Gathering. So in a human standpoint, it's harder to untap the creature. And also, players don't see this card ever, so they will just pay 4 mana, untap a creature to skip their turn. It's like you're time walking your opponent. You're not ever supposed to pay 4 mana. This can go against you if you play like a Psychotog deck and you paralyze a Psychotog. Well, Psychotog is the only creature in the deck. Of course, they're going to pay 4 mana untap it. So it has its drawbacks, but for turn 1, like destroy target small creature, it's just great. Rancid Earth is the second strongest land destruction card. It's like a Stone Rain, but better because it does 1 damage to each creature and player. So you can hit your opponent's creatures pretty hard when they least expect it. They don't read the threshold, and they don't really pay attention to the threshold because, well, there's a lot of stuff going in the game, a lot of thinking to be done, and they just don't look at your graveyard. And they don't count to see if you have threshold, and then bam, you get surprised with Rancid Earth. And Rancid Earth combined with Sinkhole gives your opponents major mana screw. And this allows you just to mop up the board with Looming Shade. What a terrible picture. Let's fix that. Looming Shade from Urza's Saga. It's like Frozen Shade, but 1 more power, and it's still a common. So now that you've used all your cards to destroy everything your opponent owns, all his creatures and lands, all you're left with is just mostly nothing against a Looming Shade. And Looming Shade can just pump itself to whatever, 5/5, 6/6, or 7/7, and it will just knock over creatures, whatever is remaining on your opponent's forces, and it could just kill your opponent outright. It's like a fireball over and over again. So that's basically the deck. I won't tell you the rest of the deck. It's really old. But this is the main point of Peasant Magic land destruction. Can I say that Hypnotic Spectre could destroy lands too, just by knocking them out of your opponent's hands? if you just get that lucky randomness. It's a great deck. So I go first round against Senior Stompy. You get to play against this middle-aged woman who I think is part of the Peasant Magic Council. She tells me, all about Peasant Magic and how can I look at banned lists and stuff like that. I heard previously that the banned list for Peasant Magic was Library of Alexandria. That's right, it's a $200 card, Library of Alexandria. And it lets you draw an extra card every turn. And it's restricted in Vintage. It wasn't restricted in Peasant Magic, and someone just showed up with 4 $200 Library of Alexandrias and won the tournament, and it got banned. So I knew I couldn't play Library of Alexandria, but yeah, a very small banned list back in early 2000s. That was probably a mistake, and I'll get back to that in a little bit. So round 1, middle-aged woman's playing Senior Stompy. Turn 1, Forest, Rogue Elephant, sacks her Forest. Now, if you sack your own lands against a land destruction deck, you're going to die. So I do turn 1, Paralyze on a Rogue Elephant. Dropping. It's like the only 1-mana black spell that can stop a Rogue Elephant in its tracks, and I had it, and no one plays it. It was glorious. And then my land destruction, Sinkhole, prevents the other half of Senior Stompy, which is using a worm to get the land back from your graveyard to your hand. She never had that much mana. She gets Sinkhole, Rancid Earth. Rogue Elephant's never going to untap. She's never going to have 4 mana for Paralyze. And she gets trounced pretty bad. She's just in shock. So I'm 1-0, feeling pretty fine. Then second round, I play against this guy in his 40s. Now, talk about weird. How often do you see that in Magic the Gathering? Like people in their 40s playing Magic the Gathering. It's usually like kids and young people. So this was really weird format, guys. Just seeing like all sorts of Magic the Gathering players. And he was just playing junk. And yeah, I had a smile on my face when I top decked. And he knew it was over because every single time I smiled, he knew it was just another land destruction spell. And so guys, just work on your tells. Don't smile whenever you draw a land destruction spell. Because, well, it kind of helped because he just, like, when he sees this foul smile on my face about being land destroyed over and over again, he just concedes. So 2-0. Feeling good, right? We're going to win this Peasant Magic tournament. Right? No. Because once you're in the XO bracket, then they start giving the best at you. So round 3. Play against Burn. And guess what? Since this is Peasant Magic, it's like Pauper Burn with a twist. It's got Isochron Scepter. So I can destroy every single land he has, and he can just play a land and play Lightning Bolt and bolt anything. Since I'm playing Looming Shade, if I have like 6 swamps, I can only use like 2 or 3 swamps to pump it up because he's just going to top deck a bolt and bolt my Looming Shade, and I have to pump it 3 times in response. So I end up killing him really slowly, and he just wins the next 2 games with Isochron Scepter, Lightning Bolt. Like, how do you win against Isochron Scepter, Lightning Bolt against this deck? You just bolt Spectre, you bolt Looming Shade. The game's over. There's very few creatures in the deck. I think there was just 12. It was pretty sad. So round 4, I go first. And I duress the opponent. I'm playing Duress, by the way. Let's just look that up. For those who don't want it, it's the best card in German. In German, it's called Zwang. So go buy your Zwangs from eBay if you can, because that's just cool to say, Zwang. Duress reveals Soul Ring, Isochron Scepter, Boomerang, Counterspell. So basically, the opponent could, turn 1, land Soul Ring, tap the Soul Ring, Isochron Scepter, put Boomerang down, and then Boomerang my land, my first land, over and over again. If he had gone first. And I'd never have more than 1 land in the entire game. It's basically all a forfeit. So Duress, I'm thinking, I've got like 2 Duresses in my hand. So I'm like, I could just Duress, Isochron Scepter. And he thinks this is obvious. It's like you just Duress like Soul Ring, right? Or something like that. And because he has a turn 1, I'm thinking like, well, maybe I can just like Duress, like counterspell or something. And so I like tank for the longest I've ever tanked in Magic the Gathering. Um, so I take like a Soul Ring or Isochron Scepter, and he gets Isochron Scepter anyway, and he throws Counterspell and Boomerang underneath it, and what are you going to do? You can just Counterspell everything for the rest of the game. Round 5, same thing. Isochron Scepter's busted. Another Isochron Scepter Counterspell Boomerang deck. You can just tuck 2-mana instant spells underneath Isochron Scepter until the end of days. Let me look it up for you guys if you don't know what it is. What a terrible picture. There we go. It's an uncommon. They can have 4 of them. It's not banned. I haven't seen the banned list in Peasant Magic in years. So let's see if Isochron Scepter. No, it's still there. So Isochron Scepter sucks. It ruined my day. I go 2 and 3 in Peasant Magic. Don't play this format. I had like $500 deck. Ridiculously expensive for a format called Peasant. And yeah, it's the way they restrict cards. You can write to the council and suggest that a card be banned. But there's so few games of Peasant being played that it's just not being regulated enough. It just needed to have banned Isochron Scepter for me to enjoy that tournament. So playing these roguish formats, these unofficial formats, can be a bad idea. It's got a double-edged sword. You get to play new decks. You get to face decks you've never seen before. But the administration is terrible. I think the only unofficial format that's fixed this is Penny Dreadful. Because Penny Dreadful, if a card just becomes too popular, the price will just rise above a penny, and the card will just automatically get banned. And Peasant Magic's banned hundreds and maybe thousands of cards. Actually, yes, thousands of cards. So yeah, don't play Peasant Magic. I hope you enjoyed the video. I'll see you next time.